to be able to create human connection is really, really meaningful. And you create that human connection from getting to know each other.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello. Today, I have a very funny guest here, John Garrett. I can't even really keep a straight face whenever he's like cracking jokes here and there. John, welcome to the show. It's awesome to have you here.
No, thank you so much, man. I'm really honored to be a part of this. So thank you.
Yeah, you are a recovering CPA, a recovering Big Four CPA, might I add. And you've been on stage over 2,000 times. The last time I saw you, I think you spoke at an event here in Denver, and then you were jumping on a plane to go fly to another speaking gig. So you've been speaking for quite some time now. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I was a Big Four CPA with PricewaterhouseCoopers coming out of Notre Dame, and then picked up a little bit of a hobby of doing stand-up comedy at night just for fun. I enjoyed doing it. And then, and then in May in 2005, I got good and quit corporate altogether to do stand-up full-time. Every 50 weeks a year, was in a different city doing shows, and then moved to New York City, did a couple of cool things, wrote 2 Emmy nominated award shows, and have a comedy album on Sirius, Pandora, and all that stuff. And then had some near misses. And so I decided to marry corporate John with comedian John. And so that's where a lot of the keynote speaking at conferences, and now wrote a book that came out 2 years ago, What's Your And? Unlock the Person Within the Professional. And it's won 3 awards now, mostly business motivational leadership categories. Yeah, which is really amazing. It's had some cool things along the way. And in the moments, it felt like roller coaster. I don't know what's going on, zigzag, like what is happening. But looking backwards, it's a straight line. I needed to go through all those things in order to be where I am now, talking to Chris Bello, which is what my goal was all along. So here we are. I've self-actualized.
Cool. It's really cool just to see. And I think I recently mentioned a quote on the show that I think Steve Jobs said it: you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Because when you're seeing all the dots and all the opportunities, do I do this speaking gig? Do I talk to this audience? Or what if I shifted it and added the corporate angle to the comedy, right? Yeah. And now you look back and you're like, oh, duh, it makes so much sense. This is the path I should have gone through all along. But when you were in it, I'm sure you had a lot of self-doubt and worry. And is this the right thing? Am I on the right path, right?
Yeah. Every day writing the book was massive self-doubt. I mean, who am I to write a book and to tell people how to run their companies and run their careers and whatever? And then I go out and speak, and it's like, well, I'm the guy to tell them that. That's who I am, And so it's just getting out of your own way, getting out of your own head, is the biggest piece of, especially when you're entrepreneur. I mean, it's really hard. So it's just you, because if you don't do the work, then it doesn't happen. And so
that is the hardest part. I literally have to pay a business coach. I'm not sure if you have one as well, but I have to pay a business coach to make me do the things that I say I'm going to do. Because otherwise, like, I put it on my board and no one's here to tell me I have to do it.
Exactly.
I could go 2 weeks without doing anything.
Exactly. No, it's like a trainer, like a personal trainer at the gym or anything like that. It's just that the accountability is 100%. Huge.
So how did you do that? Did you set like a goal every day to write 10 pages or like 2 pages?
Oh, for writing the book? So I flew in my content editor into Denver, where I live. And we spent a week, 40 hours in a conference room to map out, I had been speaking on this for several years. And in 2018 and 2019, it was over 10,000 people in the audiences. So it's been like tried. So I know that the message resonates. Yeah. But when you're speaking from stage, it's totally different than reading a book, because I'm not sitting next to you and telling you, oh, well, if you didn't like that chapter, you might want to skip the next 2, type of thing, where if I'm speaking and something doesn't land, then I know I'll jump ahead or whatever. Okay. And so just learning that, and who's the book for, and what's the tone, and what's the structure of it all. Mm-hmm. And then from that, then it was about 2 years from that week, almost exactly 2 years to when it published. And so it's just literally writing without editing, which is really hard to do. Of just almost word vomiting just onto your computer and just get it all out of your head. And then you have a team of people that then take the ideas and the things, the bricks, if you will, and they build the house from that. So it was quite a journey. And then that first draft you turn into the publisher, and then 3 rounds of copy editing, 3 rounds of proofreading. And man, you gotta
Intense.
really, you gotta really check your ego, because it's like, all right, that's, it's gonna come out so much better than what you originally wrote. And
Yeah, I'm
I'm
always
really
curious
proud
to
of it.
just hear. I mean, I'm excited about like everything you've been up to. That message that you spoke about definitely landed. You know,
Yeah,
you were speaking at the Denver Advisory Board DAB
right.
meeting. I was a guest out there, and it was just hilarious. I think there was a specific area where you pulled people's LinkedIn
Yeah,
headshots, and you were just kind
yeah.
of like laughing at their photos and just kind of making some jokes about who can drink who under the table.
Right, right. Or just, well, it's always like, like there was an older lady, and it's like mostly, so I do the superlatives, kind of like Jimmy Fallon does with the NFL
Yeah.
players during the Super Bowl. But I do it with people's LinkedIn profile pictures. And it's really fun because no one remembers what their LinkedIn profile picture is.
Right.
And it's mostly for me because I get a huge laugh out of it. And then I get to Photoshop sometimes. Somebody looks like, I did a conference a couple of years ago, and somebody looked like the lead singer from the Smashing Pumpkins. And so I photoshopped that guy's head onto the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan's, body while
That's awesome.
doing a concert. And, it's so fun, and nothing's mean. It's all just silly. And, and so it's all just good fun. And I think it's also a cool way to show that I did my homework on the group. That's, this is for you. It's not a cookie cutter thing that I give everywhere. Like, this is for you. And I think that that's important, that we, just take a half step back, just to customize a little bit, humanize things, just for that group.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And right before we hit record, you also asked, hey, who's in the audience? I know a lot of times I'll interview guests and they're just ready to roll. And then sometimes they stop me for a second because they want to make sure that the message that they're about to deliver lands with that specific type of avatar.
Definitely. Otherwise, we're all wasting our time.
Yeah.
And I don't want that at all.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I mean, as a comedian, you're a solopreneur. And then, the work that I do now, I do have a couple of virtual people, but it's pretty much me, and so I know exactly what that's like. Except for in my case, I'm also the product. So, it's like, I'm the CEO, I'm the janitor, I'm the admin executive assistant, I'm sales, I'm all of it, but also the product. And so it's sometimes it's difficult to be that, because it's hard to sell yourself. And it's also hard to get that feedback sometimes, where if I'm selling, pens, it's like, well, I don't care if the pen sucks or not, like, whatever, or something that I invented. It's like, well, that hurts a little bit, but when it's you, it's like, oh, that cuts a little different. Yeah. Right. It's like, slow down, lady. You don't have to be like that.
Yeah.
It's me. Right. But yeah, for the most part, it's all really positive. And especially the more that I do it, like people like you that come up after and all that, it's really, really neat to see how it resonates with so many different kinds of people.
Yeah, 100%. And I was just interested too, just all the speaking that you do and just flying around. And, we all have, well, actually, I think fear of speaking is probably like right up there after death is what I always hear. So maybe not a lot of people have ambitions to do that.
Right. Seinfeld's joke is because fear of speaking is number one, and death is number two. So or death is, I guess, number one. Yeah. So you'd rather be,
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. But you'd rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it is. Death's number one. Yeah. And so he's like, so you'd rather be dead than giving the eulogy at the funeral. And
the fact that you do that over and over and over again. How many, like, now that we're kind of like open back up and traveling and stuff, like how many speaking gigs are you back to at this point?
I mean, the last 6 weeks I've been every week in a different city, sometimes twice. And it's great. It's a lot of conferences are happening now. A lot of people are gathering. Sometimes it's an association of a bunch of people from different companies. Sometimes it's like last week in Chicago was for a specific company. So it was like 80 people from that company doing that conference. And then, sometimes it's huge. Like there was one that was like 700 people in person, and then another like 400 virtual. And yeah, that's one of those stages where you're up there and then there's giant screens on each
With
side
you, yeah.
that people are watching the screen instead of me, because
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
far back.
It's just
And
easier to see the screen when you're all blown up on there
yeah,
instead of like the little dot on stage.
yeah, but like I'm not, the lead singer of the Killers. So like I'm not in a band. So this is weird that I'm the one that you're doing this for, but it's just cool to be able to touch that many people and
Yeah,
spread the what's your and message to so many people and getting a lot of people coming up saying I'm touching a lot of hearts,
yeah,
which I
for
think is
sure.
really deep. And not a lot of speakers probably get that feedback. So it's neat.
100%. And we
Yeah.
can dive into the what's your and idea and movement, because I know that resonated a lot when I heard you speak in person.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about before we hit record, I might identify as like I'm a real estate agent or professional, my
Yeah.
fiance is an accountant. We have these titles and then we forget that we actually are more than that. So if you want to
Oh
dive
yeah.
into that, let's I think that's a lot of value right there
Yeah.
for the audience
Yeah.
for sure.
Totally. Because I mean, you're a real estate agent and something else. Like and that and is it's a container that is hobbies and passions and interests that you have that
Yeah.
light you up. And it's not family. It's what do you do with your family?
Mhm.
Family's a generic answer that's a cop out. It's what do you do that you drag your kids along to because you want to go do it. That's the stuff that matters. And by just saying I am a real estate, I am an accountant or whatever, it's a huge disservice to the vast awesomeness that you are.
Yeah.
There's so many other dimensions to who you are. And the real estate agent piece of you, the accountant piece of me was like 15% maybe.
Right.
I mean, if you really, really boil it down, but we let our job title and our identity become like our 100% of our identity. And it's massive anxiety, massive depression, bad moral decisions, like I mean, just all kinds of bad things. And then when you start working with others, critical feedback is super critical because this is your whole identity. And
Yeah.
if somebody's critical of that, then it's super harsh. And so all these things that just by humanizing yourself in the workplace, that there's a job title, but behind that job title is a human being. And if you want to get even deeper, inside that human is a soul.
Yeah.
And so like what lights your soul up? And if someone says more accounting, they're lying. Like it's not that,
Right.
more real estate work. It's like, no, like you're good at it, you like it, but what lights your soul up is deep, and so just acknowledging that you are a human behind the job title, but so are the people that you're working with. And it's easy for us to forget that. It becomes very surface level, real estate agent and another real estate agent or banker or whatever. And it's like, no, this is a human and then another human. And that's the interaction that's happening here.
Yeah.
And also too, like what differentiates you, especially as an accountant or as a real estate agent, like you could throw a football and hit 20 of them, like what makes you different, And
Yeah.
so even if it's commercial, residential, like I don't care, I can still hit 20, like, it's in.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's
a
like, what
lot.
makes you different? Like your differentiator and also a unique skill set that you have based on outside of work, hobbies and passions and interests. And I guess I mean, my ands are college football, huge college football, going to concerts, play the piano. I love ice cream. And like a lot, like I shouldn't have teeth, that's how much I love ice cream. And and then traveling, I guess. So
Yeah.
and the ice cream's definitely an and it could be whatever it is. So I feel like it's only fair for me to ask you then, what would you say, do you have an and?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean,
Yeah.
there's quite a few ands, and it's really going down to like what used to be your and maybe, or like what
Oh
was
yeah,
my and as a kid that's no longer my and.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
before, I mean, I would always be like, yeah, I'm a drummer. And now that was like part of my identity. I started in fifth grade. I played until maybe
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And now I could still tap on the desk and stuff or on the steering
Yeah,
wheel, but I don't know, like maybe the and has changed a little bit because when we moved
definitely.
from Texas to Colorado, like we didn't bring my set. It's just at my parents' house, my drum
Okay.
set's there.
Yeah.
Didn't have room for it in the U-Haul
Sure.
type thing, right? So
Yeah.
figuring out like what is that and what do I really love and what am I passionate about? That's
Yeah.
been a little more, it's been the boring answers of, well, I love exercising, I like hiking, now I'm starting to ski more,
That
right?
counts, man. Like,
Yeah,
and you don't even have to be good at it. It's, I enjoy skiing.
exactly.
Are you on the Olympic team? It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
yeah. And
And
tapping
I'm not,
into it, making
yeah,
space for it too, right? Because I think a
yeah.
lot of people suppress those ands. Like me, I didn't play
Oh
video
yeah.
games for years because I'm like, I don't have time for that. Successful people don't play video games. And then we got a
Right.
Nintendo Switch last year, and I'm like,
Okay.
dude, this is awesome. I've
Right.
been missing out. Yeah.
That's so good. I have the original NES from when I was a
Oh,
kid. Like, I still have the original one. The
that's
Mario
awesome.
Brothers Duck. Unfortunately, Duck
Oh
Hunt
yeah,
doesn't
I
work
played
on
those all
flat
the time.
screen
Ninja
TVs.
Gaiden and stuff.
But
And
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Mike Tyson's Punch Out, all that.
yeah,
And technology is so great now. One cartridge holds 100
all the
games.
games,
So you just
right?
need one, and it's
It's
great. You
amazing.
don't have to blow in them anymore because it's just the one that stays in
Right. It
there.
just works.
But yeah, man. But no, all about, like, and it's just like when people talk about that, they light up.
Yeah.
They come
Yeah.
alive. And when you talk about work, sometimes you light up, but sometimes you don't. I mean, honestly.
Hmm.
But talking about your and is always fun,
Right.
always.
Right.
And so it's finding those other parts of you that you enjoy doing. Like, when you're not at work, where would I find you?
Yeah.
Type of thing. Or who else are you, is another way to look at it too. Or if you want to get really deep, and it could cause you to have an existential crisis maybe, but like, if I take away your first name, you're still you. I'm looking at you, and you're like, well, I got a last name. Okay, well, let's take away your last name. Okay, now who are you? And it's like, okay, now I take away your job title. Okay,
Mm.
now who are you? Well, you're a husband. Okay, well, let's take away your family identity. You're no longer a parent or a spouse or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you. You're still you. Nothing changed. But if I take all those things away, then who else are you?
Yeah.
And there's really cool awesomeness under there. But the soul, and then the human covers that, and then society puts all these layers on top of us that we think we're supposed to do, or how we're supposed to act. And it's like, no, like, peel these back, like, get back to the soul. Like, what is it that lights you up?
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to do it for a job, because you're probably not good at it. Good enough to be a professional drummer on a touring band, but you enjoy it. So that's great,
Right.
like, and
Right.
that's all that matters. It's not supposed to be your job. Because, I mean, I did that. I made that shift where the and of doing stand-up comedy became my job. And you have to have something else, like, because that gets really weird, because then it's not as enjoyable.
Yeah. I've
The
heard
money
about that.
provides
Like
the pleasure.
artists who start selling art, they no longer enjoy it because it feels
Yeah,
like work, like a
yeah,
chore, and they don't
yeah.
pour their own originality into the artwork
Right.
anymore.
Yeah. And it's like, I have to go do like a bar gig for $50 because I have rent. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and so, it's just like little things like that. That now it's not doing it for the joy of it.
Hmm.
And so you have to have other things that container, like I said, to what lights you up,
Yeah, that's super helpful. I'm glad you say that because one of my questions was going to be, how do you make your and, they say if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Like, how do you make
Yeah.
your and your main thing? If I want to make money doing drumming stuff, how
Right.
do I just like do that online all the time? But it kind of goes back to what we just talked about. If I had to do it and I had to record 2 videos a week on YouTube and make some courses for some online students,
Yeah.
it might become one of those things that I'm like, man, I hate drumming. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be fun for me anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, what if you brought drumming into your work a little bit? Like, what
Yeah.
if all of a sudden, you're the real estate agent for musicians? Like, musicians come, like, now you have a niche. Now that's a differentiator.
Yeah.
Like, if I was
For
another
sure.
real estate agent that didn't know anything about music, well, you're going to have a stronger connection with clients than I will.
Right.
Because, well, we're both
Especially
real
ones
estate
that
agents.
love music. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so it's like, people that love music, people that play music, people that whatever, you're their guy. And so, that's the thing is we hide the one thing that makes us unique. That's the first thing that we leave
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy how, like, humans tried to hide their humanity, because we
Right.
equate being human with having faults.
Mm.
And that's not true. Like, you of course you're going to have faults. Everyone does, but they're beautiful. Like, it's how, there's a article I was reading recently, and it was, list all your faults and then read them out loud, and afterwards say, how human of me. It's just how awesome is that?
I'm human.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a human, and I have all these other dimensions to me, and these are things that truly light me up. And it takes the pressure off when it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
Plus then you
True.
can switch them. You leave the drum kit in Texas, all right, cool, now I got skiing, I got hiking, I got other stuff. And yeah, I'm not doing it every day, but that doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
when you have time. And just make sure that you make time for it. That's the thing. I spoke at a pretty big software conference, and the vice president of North America, she came up and she said, hey, that was really, really amazing. I used to love to go running, and I don't remember the last time I went, like marathons and stuff. I don't remember the last time I even went running. And I was like, well, we don't even need a team. Like, kick your heels off, I'll chase you. Like, what do we got to do here?
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, I saw her. She was doing runs again on social media, posting about it and stuff. And because it matters, like it'll go dormant, and then before you know it, it's extinct. And it's like, how could you imagine if you were like, I don't remember the last time I drummed? And it's like, oh man, like what have I done with myself?
Yeah.
Like, what
What
is
am I
going
doing?
on? Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, those are things that really matter, and it's important.
Yeah, carving out time for that is incredibly important. How did you start to do that more and more? Because I think the entrepreneurial journey, a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to
Oh,
resonate with this. It was a lot easier when I got off work at 5 every day and I knew I
yeah,
was getting paid every other Friday, no matter what. Whereas
totally.
now it's like, it's dependent on that next gig, like, or that next real
Yeah,
estate deal, right? So,
yeah,
and you can always make more. There's no ceiling now. So, how do you
right.
balance that when you got into the entrepreneurial space, if
Yeah.
you don't
I mean,
mind?
no, totally. I mean, the burnout is real. And
Yeah,
if you don't shut it down, then you'll just keep working. And so you have to at some point say, okay, I'm going to be done at whatever time.
set a time. Yeah.
If it's 5 o'clock, if it's 8 o'clock PM, whatever it is, but you have to just be like, I have to stop. And because you'll drive yourself insane, and you'll also be not as good at the quality of the work that you're doing. There's
Right.
plenty of psychological studies done of, after so many hours, you're just worthless. And so like, I
Your
mean,
brain is mush. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like, you might as well just not do it, and
Yeah.
unplug. And that's and also gives you an ability to just unplug from work. When you're hiking, when you're skiing, when you're doing those things, like you're all in on those. And
Mhm.
so, or maybe subconsciously in the back of your mind, you have ideas going about work and things like that. But definitely try and set a schedule. Today I'm gonna whatever, and then that's the end time, and then shut it down. Like, you really have to walk away and just but it's really hard to do because, yeah, like I said earlier, like if you're not the one doing it, then no one's doing it. And it's really important to just make time for yourself and take care of yourself, and remember that the work side of you is 15%.
Yeah.
There's 85% of you that's other things. And remember that, and you have to nurture that. And if you think about yourself as an employee, you hired the whole you. So it's not just the work part of you, it's all the other parts of you too. So shine a light on that and celebrate that. And for those of you that are listening that have teams of people, they didn't invent the thing. They're not the founder. So they're not as jazzed, like they like it, but they're not all in like you are. And
Yeah.
so
It's
remember
not
that.
their baby.
Right. Yeah. And so they're working so they can live. So find out what those things are, what lights them up,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah.
I just had this conversation with someone the other day about, how do you go the extra mile, and maybe on an intake form, figuring out what are their hobbies, what's their
Yeah.
favorite adult beverage,
Totally.
those little questions where for a birthday, I worked at a real estate company a couple of years ago, and I forgot on the intake form, I had put, my favorite drink and what my hobby was at the time. My aunt
Yeah.
at the time, I was
Yeah.
really into skydiving. And
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and I was getting my license and certification, and like every weekend
Okay.
I'd go out and jump a couple times, and
Yeah.
they got me like a gift certificate for that. So on my birthday, I had like a Skydive Spaceland in Houston, like, gift card to go and
Yeah.
jump a couple of times. And it
Yeah.
was a really cool and memorable gift, instead of just like, oh, here's some Amazon book, gift
Right.
card or something like
Yep.
that,
That's
that you
exactly
don't
it.
feel it as much because you just buy whatever was in your saved for later anyway. Like, oh, I got to get this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But that means a lot, and that
it
means
did.
that
Yeah.
they see you Chris. They don't see Chris the worker. They see you.
As a
And it's
person.
like, yeah, and you feel valued and you feel seen and you feel, known. And loneliness is massive. I mean, that's the real pandemic in the last couple of years, is
Yeah.
loneliness.
Yeah.
And so that's huge. And especially as an entrepreneur and as, I mean, you're by yourself, I mean, a lot of times. And
Yeah.
so, to be able to create human connection is really, really meaningful. And you create that human connection from getting to know each other, the human behind the job title. And for them to get you that is awesome. You remember that. How many
Yeah.
other, I mean, I'm sure you've gotten dozens of corporate gifts over the years,
Right.
and you can't name a single one except for that one. And that's
Exactly.
exactly why, and I mean, this all started when I worked at PwC, and I was doing comedy at night. And also I did like an Onion kind of newsletter about the firm in using the firm email, which I'm sure is not
They
appropriate,
probably
but
didn't
whatever.
really like, but
but it was hilarious. So everyone
Yeah.
in the office loved it.
That's awesome.
And so I didn't know how quickly it had spread. Well, 12 years later, I was speaking at a pretty big conference, and I'm getting mic'd up, and the meeting professional comes up and she's like, "Hey, do you know this guy named Mark?" And I'll leave his last name out. And I was like, "No, I've never heard that name. That's pretty uncommon last name." And she said, "Well, he knows you. He saw all the speakers and said, 'Oh, I know John Garrett. That's the guy who did comedy at night.'" And I'm like, "Who's this Rain Man? Like, how do you remember me? And I have no clue who you are." And so when I got done speaking, I looked him up, and he was in my first PwC office 12 years earlier.
Wow.
And he was in another department that I never, ever even went to that floor.
And
I
he
don't even
knew
know
about you, right?
Yeah, but he remembered me 12
From your
years later.
emails.
And I think people deserve to be remembered 12 years from now. Like,
That's
we're
amazing.
good at our jobs, and the work isn't the part that makes you stand out. It's, the human side of you. And,
Yeah.
you just go a lot farther, and work is so much more enjoyable. And, good things happen when you just humanize yourself a little bit, and it differentiates you, especially in, occupations where there's thousands of them, in a city block. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what makes us different? And it's not the technical skills. It's really not.
Nope.
And it's who you are combined with the technical skills. So bringing the human out from behind the job title.
Yeah,
is
this is a
important.
really powerful message, because I think a lot of us try to conform with what should we do. I mean, like, take real estate. My first professional photo was like with the suit jacket on and like,
Sure.
Looking more professional, because now I'm selling houses.
Right.
And it took a couple of years for me to just say, like, screw this, and embrace t-shirt and jeans. And I'm going to show up to listings in like my workout clothes and stuff like that, because that's who I am.
Right.
The and behind me, like the exercise component was very important.
Yeah.
More so important than like actually suiting up for every single encounter with clients. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So just embracing that and letting people know, look, I have a real person. If you want the fancy person dressed up all the time, that's not going to be me.
Yeah. That's not you. And some people,
it is
that's going to turn people off.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But if you're not turning anyone off, you're not turning anyone on.
Exactly.
So if you're down the middle, vanilla, generic, well, then you're the same as everybody else.
That's it. You're plain Jane.
Yeah, exactly. But if you move over to one of the sides, yeah, sure, there's going to be people that are like, "Whoa, we're not working with that guy." But then there's going to be 10 people that go, "That's my dude. Like, we're using him." And then I'm going to tell all the other cool people that I know that this is your guy, and those sort of things that I think we're so afraid of. We feel like, well, if we close a door, then it's going to lose business. No, it focuses more energy into a smaller pathway. So you have all that energy now going down one hallway instead of trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
And it's a lot more relieving too. I mean, I still kind of struggle with it. I'm not sure about you, like with all the political stuff, and like I don't want to get banned on social media sharing something, the wrong thing. And no matter what you post, like you kind of said, no matter what you say, some people are going to agree, others are not. So if you can just be authentically yourself, you're going to attract the right people who resonate and agree with, where you're coming from. And the people who don't want to work with you, that's great. You get to repel them before you actually start working together and things blow up 2 weeks in.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. But that is interesting, like the politics or whatever. If your and is protesting, like that's lead with something else. Like, come on now.
Right.
You know,
Like find
and
another hobby or something, like
yeah, you
take up
have
skiing
something.
or something.
You have something else.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is like professionalism can suffocate your personality for sure.
Yeah.
But unprofessional is basically like if you're inhibiting your ability or someone else's ability to do their job,
Yeah.
then that's where the line is crossed.
Right.
So like, and unfortunately today, you know, anything political is unprofessional because it's too triggering for everybody. And
That's a great
so,
word for it. Yeah.
and
It's just
you
like a
know,
time bomb. It's gonna blow up eventually if
you're
you
not going
start
to get
messing
your
with
work
that.
done. They're not going to get their work done. Like nothing good is going to come of this. And the
Yeah.
and is not drama. It's not stirring the pot. It's not whatever. It's just, this is what lights me up.
Yeah. And I
And, you
don't think that
know,
lights most people up. Like people
no,
just get upset and angry, and then you feel those
exactly.
like negative vibrations, right?
Right. Yeah. And so it's like, unfortunately, you have to check that at the door.
Yeah.
But there's other things that do light you up, and you
Yep.
can lead with that. And what's really cool is these ands transcend generational differences. They
So
transcend the
true.
DEIA conversations. They transcend like critical feedback stuff. Like there's so many benefits from the and, where if you're in an affinity group or you know an employee resource group or whatever, or if you it may be an association where it's a group of real estate people that play music, I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
type of thing,
Yeah.
well then
That's cool.
it doesn't matter if you're 22 and then in the you know the lady next to you is 62 and a singer. Like we have something in common, you know, like
Right.
we can connect over that. You know, and so it doesn't matter what generation or whatever, it's we all have those things. And
Yeah,
so
I'm
it's
not a
cool.
big sports person, but we went to a
Yeah,
Rockies game the other day. We got invited.
yeah,
Someone had extra tickets to a baseball game.
yeah,
And that's what the real estate guy that I went with, he was pointing out, like, look at that. Those old guys over there, they haven't checked their phone once. This little kid
yeah,
here is just like, instinctively opening Snapchat every 30 seconds. He's like, dude, look, it's like 30 seconds. He pulls his phone out and like takes a
yeah,
random picture and sends it to some friends.
yeah,
He was trying to say, like, look at if you can get into something like baseball or you get more interested in sports, you can relate to the guy with like gauge earrings with sleeve tattoos, or those
yeah,
old guys that are wearing dress shirts to the baseball game.
right,
They don't even check their phone at all, right? So you
yeah,
can
yeah,
relate to so many more people
yeah,
if baseball or like that common thing is your
or
and.
music, or you know,
Right.
and
Insert
especially
fill
those
in the
common
blank.
things, you know, like golf, or you know,
Right.
outdoors, even just outdoors in general, you know, I think counts.
Yeah.
So is it
Plenty of
hiking,
stuff
is it camping,
outside.
is it whatever, like who cares, like talking about it, you know? So it's
100%.
just, but again, it's not the work. Like you're not connecting on the work, you're connecting on the outside of work hobbies and passions and interests.
The
And
and part, which is of course
exactly.
the entire point of the message, is like, what's your and? That is the
Yeah.
part that you need to dive into.
Because I mean, like I travel a lot, and when I sit down on the plane, and
People
you
ask
know,
what you do.
yeah, what do you do? And I used to say, oh, I'm a comedian and a speaker, and then it was, let me tell you my favorite comedian is, and I was like, let me guess, not John Garrett. They're like, you're right. And then and so, but now when I sit down and they go, well, so what do you do? I go, I'm an accountant, and they just put on their noise canceling headphones. Like they don't even say, there's never a follow-up question. You
Yeah,
know, what do you do? I'm a real estate agent.
that's
Never a
it.
follow-up question. We're
Oh,
done.
put your,
Like,
yep.
okay, you know,
He's
I'm a
gonna
real
try to
estate
sell us
agent
a house.
and I love to go skydiving and I play the drums.
Yeah,
Okay, I've got some follow-up questions right now. Like, you
right.
know, and they're not about real estate. They're about
Exactly. They're never
skydiving and
about real
drums.
estate.
But the more that I get to know you, the more that I like you, there's brain science where oxytocin's released, and then norepinephrine and all that. So you're building trust, you're building bonding, you're connecting
Yeah,
with people. And then all of a sudden you're going to get business. Like it's
it's
connecting
funny
on
how
the
that
human
works.
side. Right.
I did
Yeah.
see a funny meme saying, once you tell people you're a real estate agent, they proceed to like tell you how much more they know about real estate than you.
Right.
I
That's
was like,
exactly
yep,
it.
I've got some clients that do
Yeah.
that
No,
sometimes where they
totally,
just try to
man.
one up me. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
well, you don't need me.
Yeah. I
Commissions
don't
aren't
even know
worth
why I'm
it.
here. Yeah, exactly. I'll
Yeah,
just go
well,
back to working out.
you
I
don't need
can't believe,
me. You
right.
sell this yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah. It's super powerful, man. And the fact that it
Yeah.
resonated with you so much, you
Yeah.
know, is just speaks volumes to how much it matters.
And I'm sure you're getting this feedback as you do every speaking gig, and both small and large audiences. You said you spoke to 400 or 700 people and 400
Yeah.
online. Like that's a lot of
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
is that what you see? What do you see for the next couple of years? Do you see like another book in the pipeline, or continuing to spread this message so more and more people can learn about their
Yeah.
ands?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely continuing to spread this message, but it's also taking it a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
And I mean, spiritual, woo woo, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really getting, professionals and people to see that, like, who else are you? Like, peel back these layers. And let's see, like, get to the soul, like, of
Yeah.
what lights you up. And no, it's not your work, and it shouldn't be your work, probably. But it's something that's a part of you always. Like, I spoke at a leadership conference last year, and there was a lady. I do like a word cloud from stage, so I can
Okay.
see what's in the audience, and it's so awesome just to see this mixture of ands on the screen.
That's cool.
And one lady I saw hula dancing, and I was like, whoa, who did? And she grew up in Hawaii, just around her house, likes to hula dance for fun. And so she's the head of tax for a pretty big accounting firm. And I was like, well, if I told you you could never hula dance ever again. And she's like, oh, that'd be terrible. Like, I'd want to fight you. And I was like, yeah, and you'd win 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
you have abs. I mean, first of all, I
From
mean, from all
hula
that hula
dancing.
dancing, exactly. And so, but then I said, but if I told you you could never do taxes again, and she interrupted me and said, I'd get over it. And you're the head of tax. So I
Wow.
was like, well, there you go, everybody.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it's the and is, it matters. Like,
it
I mean,
does.
that's something that's, if in I see it where some organizations are like, hey, you're gonna have to decide, either you can't play drums anymore or you don't work here. And it's like, well,
You
I
got to make a
quit. I
decision,
mean, I
right?
quit right now. I mean, I
Right.
don't even have to think about that. Like, you're gonna try and have me decide between my and work. Like, I quit. I
No
mean, it's a
brainer.
slam dunk. Yeah, it's like, there's not even a discussion.
Yeah.
And yet the I don't know, the audacity or the arrogance of
That people still
organizations to
assume, right?
put people in that position, and it's like, I'm
Yeah.
out. And that's probably how half the people listening became entrepreneurs.
They got
Honestly,
tired of it. Yeah, it's
they're like,
true. I
yeah,
remember I quit my corporate job. There was a little period in there where I kind of had my self-doubts, right? Like, okay, I'm not
oh
making
yeah,
money. I'm pouring all my money into random things that aren't really panning out.
right,
And I asked a friend who is in another, competitor role where I'd like to have worked, or at least I thought I wanted to work. And he said, yeah, I can try to make an introduction for you, but you'd have to like stop everything else you're doing. I had already started my podcast, chrisbello.com, like
yeah,
all my website was built, and
yeah,
I was trying to create this positive and uplifting content.
right,
And I do remember I could probably scroll all the way back into the Instagram DM with this friend
yeah,
and see that message. And it's kind of funny because he's since quit to pursue his and he's helping like family
amazing,
business. So he's
yeah,
off on his own. But at that
yeah,
time, that was soul crushing. And it was just like you said, it was a no brainer. Like, well, I'm not going to even bother if I can't continue the stuff that I'm doing that I love. Why would
yeah,
I even waste my time suppressing that to go down this
yeah.
path because society says I should?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's crazy how, like you said, society says I should. It's like, who? Like,
Yeah.
who said that?
It's just
Like,
the assumption.
it's just like bad telephone game where, like, some nerd in like the 1800s was like, hey, by the way, you have to work all the time, and you have to go home and think about work, and then dream about work, and then come in and work. And then now we're all telling ourselves this, and it's like, who's
Who made
doing
that
this?
up?
Like,
Right.
who said that? And no one,
Gosh,
no one
so
has.
true.
And no one is that. And so that's where it's like we're all on a merry-go-round, and I'm the kid that's like, wait, hold on. And I like grab it and stop it and be like, what
Why
are
are
we
we on
doing?
this?
Like, why are
Yeah.
we on this thing? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And
The
then
telephone
finally,
game, that makes so much
yeah.
sense. I don't think if anyone's ever played it, has anyone actually successfully gone all the way to the end and had the
Oh,
right
right.
word?
Where, in
No.
case people listening don't know, but it's where I have a message, I whisper it to Chris, and then Chris takes whatever his
The
version of
next
that message,
person,
whispers it to the next person, and then you find out what I originally said
10
versus the
people
last
later.
person that's not even close.
Right.
And so that's, I feel like, what our definition of what we're supposed to be
Yeah.
is. No, you're supposed to be you doing the job. You're not the title. You're you that has the title. And so the you is bigger than the title, and the human is bigger than the job title. And so, it's let that out,
Yeah.
a lot more. And at the very least, it's your differentiator, and it humanizes you. But also, you can create some cool connections, generate business, and also have a skill set that's different than other people. So
100%. And it's so good that you're going around and spreading this message, because I think it's one of those things where it makes sense when people listen to what you're saying. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, what's my and? Oh my gosh, I haven't done that in so long. but we're kind of plugged into the matrix and focused on our goals. And we just don't ever have people throw these ideas. So we never stop to think about it. And then that's when people have like that red pill moment of like, wait a second, I haven't been doing what I love for like 3 months or whatever. Let's get back to it. So you're kind of just opening people's eyes as you deliver this message.
I'm a little bit of the Neo here. A little bit of the Neo. No, I love that reference, man. I love the Matrix so much. Probably because of that, you know, and when it first came out, it resonated with me so much. And that was way before I was doing this. But it's so true, where it's, you know, that or like the musical Wicked, where, you know, you find out that, wait a minute, like the Wicked Witch of the West wasn't wicked at all. She was the coolest, nicest one of all of them, and whatever.
Lied to,
and you know, like whatever whatever people tell you, like whatever the media tells you, whatever all that, it's like, you know,
research,
hit the brakes and be like, what do you see with your own eyes? Like, what do you feel? Like, what do you think is really happening? And it's like, well, I don't have to be that, you know, like I can do a real estate headshot in jeans and a t-shirt, and I still sell houses. So, you know, it's like, you know, but, you know, it's going to resonate with certain people. It's going to not with others, but that's great. I'd rather have you really, really love me than just be, well, I picked him because, you know, we did all the A's and then we got to the B's and then Bella was there and then that's how I got you.
You don't want to be,
I don't
no one makes decisions like that anyway. The neurochemistry and just connections and like building rapport and trust, that goes, I was just telling someone the other day, like, dude, people don't even, it's amazing how many people don't even care about my credentials or my credibility or how much experience I have. They literally are willing to make the biggest transaction of their life just because they like me.
No kidding.
And hopefully you don't go with someone who you kind of like and they don't take a great care of you or do a good job. But if things go well, then even better. It's a win-win. They know, like, and trust you. You did a great job. Bam. They're going to refer you to everybody, no matter what profession you have for those.
No, exactly. And there was even some research done, some Nobel Peace Prize or not Nobel Peace Prize, but Nobel Prize winning research done, where they found that if a customer knows, likes, and trusts you, then even they'll stick with you, even if they know that it's an inferior product for a higher price. So
that's amazing.
I'm buying less quality for more money, but I'm staying with you because I know, like, and trust you.
That's amazing.
And so, I mean, it's wild, you know, and so that matters, but that doesn't happen unless you bring the human out from behind the job title, you know, and just share your and, you know, type of thing.
Man, this has been an awesome conversation, John. So any takeaways for the audience? Obviously figure out what your and is, maybe sit there and write out 10 of them or something like that, right?
What'd you love to do when you were 7? What'd you love to do when you were 12? What'd you love to do when you were 16, when you were 20? What'd you love to do before you got married? And when you were married, before you had kids, you know, like, and then look at that list. And maybe you can't play basketball anymore because you'll blow up your knees, but you can watch basketball, you can coach basketball, you can go watch, you know, like, and so, like, it's a part of your life, you know, and just look at that list and go back and have something, just something that lights you up, and don't be afraid to change them. Like, it's fine. It's totally cool. And it's, I enjoy blank, you know, I'm not a drummer. I enjoy drumming, you know, like I enjoy hiking. I enjoy skiing. I enjoy, you know, volunteering, you know, and it's something that makes you unique, and lean into that. And and I'm excited to reach out, connect on LinkedIn, and let me know how it goes.
Where's the best place to send everyone to? I'll drop a link in the show notes. Your website is the best place.
whatsyourand.com. I mean, it's all there. The book is there as well, and it's won 3 international awards recently, so it's pretty, I can say it doesn't suck. So it's not just me saying it, it's other people too. And and then the podcast as well is there, so you can hear from other professionals that have hobbies outside of work and see how that plays. And so whatsyourand.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link that in the show notes. And the podcast sounds like an interesting way too, just to get some ideas for anyone. Cause I honestly couldn't think of any hobbies for myself other than like exercising. It was very sad. Like, what is my and? Who am I? Right? Like the existential moment. I had that for sure recently. And just like, I kind of like a bunch of stuff, but what do I really, really love? What did I love doing as a kid? So I'll be sure to drop that link in the show notes, and everyone make sure to go check out the book, check out the podcast, and connect with John. If you do speaking gigs, you know, if anyone has any speaking opportunities, John, I'm sure you're always evaluating kind of opportunities to go speak in front of some large audiences.
Or just to connect and just to, you know, meet people that are out there, or read the book and let me know how it goes, how it resonates with you. So I love connecting with people for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, John. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I look
thanks,
forward
Chris.
to keeping in touch.
Yeah. Have a good one, man.
You too. Thank you.